Hello YouTube. I've just rewatched Jakob Trier's 2015 film Louder Than Bombs. Let's watch the trailer and talk about it.
If you ever think about Mom, if you ever think about the car accident,
why?
They know what really happened, right?
Jonah does. But Conrad, well, he was 12.
So, Louder Than Bombs. Jakob Trier's, I think, third feature, but first in the English language. He's a Norwegian director. Louder Than Bombs, as well as been his first English language feature. I think currently it's his only English language feature. More recently, and really he's someone whose work I've only really discovered in this past year or two, where last year I saw The Worst Person in the World, which is a Norwegian film, the final part of Jakob Trier's Oslo trilogy. And Worst Person in the World is one of my kind of favourite films in the UK. It came out last year. It was one of my favourite films of last year. And from that, I've kind of gone back. I've watched really kind of all of his work since then, and he's great. He is the type of kind of contemporary filmmaker. I think he's only in his like mid-40s at the moment. He feels like he has the potential to be one of the greats, and I think one of the reasons for that is his films are really interesting. He works from, I'm fairly certain, all original material. And you feel like he's someone who's got a really particular style, or not should I say so much he's got a particular style. You feel like everything he does is done with integrity, and all of his films are kind of done with a perspective, which is great. And so Louder Than Bombs is yet again prompted by seeing Worst Person in the World. It was one of the films of his that I kind of went back and having seen all of his work. And so Louder Than Bombs, as you might gather from the trailer, essentially it's the story about a father and his two sons. One of them is kind of grown up and has just had a child, is married and has just had a child, and his other son is a 15-year-old. And his wife and their mother, played by Isabelle Huppert, is a war photographer who's died some years beforehand. She's died in a car accident. And the film really starts with a reporter about to do a story on the photographer's death, and alluding to going into some background. The story is going to go into some background around how the mother figure died, and it might not have just been a simple car crash, which one of the sons doesn't know about, the youngest son doesn't know about, and that kind of prompts this kind of bringing up of a family that's already kind of dealing with kind of loss of one of its kind of key members. This kind of the story being published is kind of bringing a lot of stuff to surface. So that's the film. I think the film it's a drama. It's a family drama. And I probably doubt this was the intention, but it's a family drama about men within a family, and not in an obvious way. And as well as being a kind of a family drama, it is told with flair, and it's constructed a bit like Jakob Trier's other works. It's constructed in a really interesting way. There's flashbacks in it, there are memory, there are kind of almost like fantasy sequences in it. Not fantasy in terms of dragons and shit, but fantasy in terms of you see people's imagination or their perspective from the outside world suddenly becomes warped towards what they're thinking about. There's an element of mixed media where kind of you see a character, there's a whole sequence which is very much from the perspective within a video game. So it's constructed and put together in this really interesting way. There is and that I liked. It's told with a lot of personality. But as well as it being, so it's a family drama that's dealing with grief, and it is obviously it has a lot of melancholy in it, which I like, but it's not really dour and grim. The film is hopeful. It's sad, but it's hopeful. And that's something I really like about the film. It's not just like tragedy mongering for the sake of it. It is just about sitting with these characters for a period of time and just seeing them in this kind of, just letting them kind of be unhappy and confused and worried and not know what they're going to do, but it kind of leaves the door open as you get through towards the end of the film that there's hope and life will carry on for them. And it's really nice from that perspective. The kind of the names in this that you'll recognise are Jesse Eisenberg from The Social Network and the Batman, most recent sort of Batman films, played Lex Luthor. He's in this. He's probably the name most people know. He's very Jesse Eisenberg in it, and his character's kind of interesting. But for me, the two real standouts in this film, and I'm going to say, I think the two characters most people will remember and think about from this afterwards are Devin Druid, who plays the younger son, and Gabriel Byrne. And Gabriel Byrne for me is someone that's like, fucking hell, why do we not see enough of Gabriel Byrne? Because in this, he plays a father figure who's not, the patriarchal head of a family. He's just a dad who's kind of worried about his kids and is not sure about what he's doing. And he's almost gentle and sympathetic to a fault. But at the same time, he is, does speak his mind, and he's really great in this. And it's somewhat parallel. Gabriel Byrne is later on, but the film that I saw kind of before this is Hereditary, which is a very different film. But Gabriel Byrne plays a similar character in terms of like a dad who is very kind of gentle and is not the obvious patriarch within the family. And he plays that role so well, and I think kind of is a more realistic modern kind of father figure that we sort of see in cinema, and is, as a dad, sort of feels like more of a representation of how I feel like a dad rather than anything else. And that's kind of really great to see, rather than just being, dads at the moment are either kind of the idiot, kind of like sidekick, or they are, the kind of brutal wife beater type character, or, they're dismissive of their kids. And so Gabriel Byrne, this plays that father figure really well. And then the other person in this who is really good is Devin Druid, who plays the younger son. Now, kind of without sort of wanting to give too much away, but if you start watching this and you don't like him and you feel like he's a total unsufferable C word, stick with it, okay? Because his character is, for me, is the other person who's really going to guide you through this film, and he's really great. So the two of them in this, but this is littered with other great performances. Amy Ryan, who you'll recognise, she plays a school teacher in this and was in the Wire. She's not in this too much, but she's great. David Strathairn, who again you'll recognise from being in a ton of stuff. He plays the reporter that's doing the story. Has a couple of scenes, but in those scenes he's really great and really subtle and sort of and is super. And then obviously the other big name is, the heavyweight of international cinema, Isabelle Huppert, who plays the mum, and she's very much the spectre in the background in terms of the one that they're all kind of grieving the loss of, and you see her in flashbacks and memories and kind of and Isabelle Huppert is great, and she's good in this, and she plays kind of like, she plays a figure that you would believe as a somewhat absent mother figure, but at the same time you see why people miss her. So she's great. So Land and Bombs I would definitely recommend. I mean, at the moment, I think I'm just in a bit of a kick about sort of family dramas that are told with a lot of personality, and that's kind of why I was prompted to rewatch this. Jakob Trier, again, a filmmaker really who I discovered last year. I think he's great, and I think I'm on a bit of a kick of going back, even though I saw Louder Than Bombs for the first time only back in February. He's someone whose work I'm definitely going to go back and kind of rewatch a lot of. I've seen The Worst Person in the World a couple of times, and I would highly recommend that. And I think this is a really great film. what else to say about it, really? I watched it on Mubi, but I think there's a nice kind of Blu-ray. I don't think there's a boutique release of this on Blu-ray, but you certainly can get it on Blu-ray. And yeah, what else to say? I think the other thing, yeah, going into that thing of, while it might seem like a dour family drama, there is humour in this. It's not a laugh riot, but there is humour in this. And almost there's a... Ooh, something fell over in my house. There's also a little bit of a flavour in this of... it's kind of a bit of a... I mean, I'm slightly biased about this because I've listened to interviews with Jakob Trier before, but there is a little bit of a flavour at the end of this, but of like a John Hughes kind of teen drama, which kind of you get at the end, and that's where it starts to play into this kind of hopeful kind of feeling to the film. So Louder Than Bombs, you'll find it somewhere, and I would definitely recommend it. So that's my rewatch. Take care, bye.